Cable 2.
Welcome to the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School System Call Board of Education meeting to present our budget, our 2021 budget to the Board of Education. I'll turn the meeting over to Chair Shay Woodbury.
Thank you, Dr. Harrison, and I would like to say good evening to our community and welcome to the May 7th, 2020 Special Call Board of Education meeting of Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools to discuss our budget proposal for the 2021 school year. Before we begin, I do have a few words. In our hearts and on our minds this evening is the family of Dr. Vivian H. Burke. Dr. Burke is the mother-in-law of our very own board member, Barbara Burke. Dr. Burke served on the Winston-Salem City Council for 43 years and was the longest serving member of the council. She served as mayor pro tempore 6 times. She was a role model for female leaders, and her work on Winston-Salem City Council is unparalleled. While she had a strong commitment to public service, she also was a strong believer in public education. She was a school counselor in the district at Lawrence Intermediate for many years. She showcased her commitment to education by not only being a strong supporter of our students, but by creating scholarships in her name at Forsyth Tech, Winston-Salem State University, and Elizabeth City State University. On behalf of the Board of Education, we would like to send our deepest condolences to Barbara, her husband, Judge Todd Burke, and the entire Burke family on the passing of our community's matriarch, who is also a dear friend of mine. Also tonight, I would like to say thank you to all of our mothers. Sunday is Mother's Day. There is an old saying that life doesn't come with a manual, it comes with a mother. And nothing could be more true. So thank you to all our mothers for helping guide us, teach us, and love us. Happy Mother's Day. With that being said, yes. Oh, I thought I heard someone trying to say something. With that being said, we are officially called to order. And the next item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. So we'll go ahead and recite the pledge and forgive the background noise as we all try to recite it. So we'll go ahead as a board and try to recite it without causing too much ruckus, I guess. So we'll go ahead and begin our pledge of allegiance to the flag,
the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now I will ask for Dr. Harrison to do a roll call to establish a quorum.
Yes, ma'am. Shay Woodbury.
Present.
Lyda Calvert-Hayes.
Present.
Andrea Bramer.
Present.
Barbara Burke. I think I see Miss Burke is on the call. Leah Crowley.
Present.
Dana Connell-Hayes. Jones. Dana Jones. Dana Jones.
Present.
Deanna Kaplan.
Present.
Elizabeth Motzfinger.
Present.
Marilyn Parker.
Present.
All are present, Chair Woodbury.
Thank you. Our next item is the agenda review. Is there a motion to approve for tonight?
Move to approve. This is Elizabeth.
I'll second.
All in favor, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is discussion items, and tonight I have presented 2020-21 budget recommendations, which will be led by Andrea Gillis, our Chief Financial Officer.
And I'd like to say just a couple of words, Chair Woodbury, and to Chair Woodbury and our Board of Education. The 2021 proposed budget for Winston-Salem Forsyth Schools uses the district's mission and vision statements to focus the proposal and guide the work as it allows. The district goals, core values, and beliefs help shape the budget, which places a priority on literacy, instructional materials, safety and security, employee compensation, and an organization around learning. Aligning and updating instructional materials, strategies, and programming is a major component of this budget. Those resources, coupled with a continued commitment to digital resources and technology, remain constant. The proposed budget reflects increasing attention to the safety needs of our students, as well as an attention to student achievement. This highlights the need, we highlight throughout the budget the need for physical safety and increased partnership with our law enforcement agency as it relates to student and school safety. The budget also prioritizes staff compensation and allows for measures to implement some salary increases, particularly in the areas from the compensation study, and certainly celebrating our quarter penny sales tax as it relates to teacher supplements. The 2021 proposed budget is the culmination of months of work by individuals, departments, and committees, and certainly feedback from each of you. This work has highlighted the need to organize and align ourselves and our departments around the important work of teaching and learning. It is my belief that this budget exemplifies and makes possible the work necessary to carry out the newly adopted mission for the district as outlined in our strategic plan. I thank you for taking time this evening to hear from our Chief Financial Officer, and we certainly welcome your questions throughout the process. Now I'll turn it over to Andrea Gillis, our Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening. I'm going to share my screen now. Can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
So before you, we have the 2021 Superintendent's Budget Recommendation. Budget recommendation is composed of funding from various sources. Our state current expense proposed budget is $363.5 million. Federal grants are $47.4 million. Our local current expense is $155.3 million, which is comprised of our county appropriation for operating as well as some other local revenue. And we also have $16.2 million in other restricted special revenue. The state current expense budget is 62% of our total budget. Federal grants make up 8%. Local current expense is 27%, and other restricted and special revenue is 3% of our total operating budget. In addition, we have $4.6 million in capital outlay, as well as $29.2 million in child nutrition budget, which gives us a total proposed budget of $616,161,005 for fiscal 2021. Next, we have our proposed uses of funds. As you can see, we have 61% of our budget is salaries, and about 25% of that is benefits, for a combined 86% of our budget being salaries and benefits. We have an additional 7% for purchase services, which includes things like utilities and contracted services. We have about 6% of our budget in supplies and materials, a little less than 1% for furniture and equipment, and about 1% of our budget for charter school pass-through. Next, we'll talk about some proposed budget highlights. We have some projected state increases that will be mandated by the state. One of them, we're going to increase our state budget by 31.5 additional teacher positions for House Bill 90 class size reduction. They're going to automatically give us those positions, so we'll add them to our state budget. Next, the retirement rate for 2021 is anticipated to increase by 21.44%. This is information we've gotten from DPI. That's an 8.8% increase over the current rate of 19.7. In addition, the state health insurance premium is anticipated to be $6,647 annually per full-time employee for 2021. That is a 5.4% increase over the current premium of $6,306. Also, we're including in this budget a 1% step increase for certified teachers. That is where teachers and support staff and assistant principals will go one step on the pay scale for their years of experience. Teacher supplements. So as you know, we got a $3.7 million increase this year to give teachers a $715 increase. That amount will be reduced from our county appropriation and be replaced by the quarter-cent sales tax revenue. So that will be a reduction to our base budget. In addition, we're projecting $11 million in the additional sales tax revenue from the quarter-cent sales tax increase that will help fund the teacher supplement for 2021. The projection is a little bit lower than anticipated due to the economic impact of COVID-19. Other salary increases that are in the budget will be due to a compensation study that was completed in early 2021. The result of the comp study recommended a 3% increase for bus drivers and hourly food service staff and a 2% increase for all other classified and non-certified staff. This will result in a $2.4 million request from the county for that increase to keep Winston-Salem and Forsyth County schools competitive in the job market. Additional requests that the district is making are $12 million for textbooks and instructional materials. This will be for digital textbooks because of COVID-19, we're moving towards a lot of e-learning, and we anticipate more e-learning for next year. As you can see, we haven't had a major textbook adoption in several years, and I'll list that below. Other requests include $1.6 million for 36 campus security associates and executive director of school safety to help ensure the safety and security of our schools. And we're also anticipating that there could be an increase from the state for certified staff and principals because teachers didn't get a raise last year. We are projecting a 2% increase, which will be a local cost of $406,000. So if the state does not come through with an increase, these funds will not be needed. Other changes in our proposed budget is that we're requesting that the capital outlay funds of $2.2 million be shifted to operating. This shift will help offset some drastic reductions to the operating budget in the fiscal 2019-20 school year. And we're also requesting that the county hold the district harmless and not reduce the appropriation for the enrollment factor and the resource factor in our funding formula. Here's a breakdown of the proposed county budget. We start out with our base budget of $125.9 million, less the reserve of $3.7 million for the local supplements. Next, we have the $2.2 million increase to the operating budget that will be a requested transfer from the capital outlay funds. Next, we have $888,000 in reductions. And then our next section talks about investing in our employees, which we went over in the previous slides, the step increase, the health insurance increase, and the retirement rate increase for a total of $1.5 million of required salary and benefit increases. Next, we have the $11,050 that will be our projected revenue for the quarter-cent sales tax supplement increase. And additionally, we have the 2.4 that was previously discussed about the compensation market adjustments. The next section talks about our additional requests that we talked about earlier. The safety and security associates will be about $1.6 million. Textbooks and instructional materials will be $12 million. And the anticipated 2% salary increase is $406,000 for a grand total of roughly $14 million for additional request. That gives our proposed budget county appropriation of $152.5 million, which is a $26.6 million increase over the prior year. Next, we have a comparison of the top 10 districts in North Carolina with their local budgets, their ADM, and their local per pupil expenditures, as well as their total per pupil expenditures. And you can see where Forsyth County ranks 27th in local per pupil expenditures and 77th in total per pupil expenditures in the state. Finally, we have we have a high population of EDS students in our district. That population peaked at about 61% in 2017-18, but is still hovering around 58.6% for the current year. And due to COVID-19, we do anticipate that could fluctuate, go up a little higher for next year due to the economy. And that is my last slide. And now we will open it up for discussion.
I would like to chime in here. So our budget presentation, as it is this evening, it's important that we meet our May 1st deadline. So May 1st last week we talked to you all about the budget. So at this time we're making a formal presentation to the board and the community. From here, we will present, should it be approved, we will move forward to a presentation on May 14th, should this move forward this evening, to present to our county commissioners. Based on feedback from our county commissioners, we will then come back for a final adjustment, any final adjustments that are needed and necessary for a final vote. So that's where we are at this time. The timeline may fluctuate a little bit because of the COVID dollars and the COVID infusion of funding, and we want to make sure we have enough time to account for those dollars should we receive money that may impact our local budget. We're not really sure yet, as those areas have not been fully identified. So at this point, that would be our timeline this evening, is of course seeking your approval, and that will be in the next area under action, going to our county commission and presenting the budget to them for support, and then coming back to you all with some timeline. There has been a timeline adjustment for our final budget based on the state budgeting process, and I'll ask our CFO to share that information relative to what how the state budget impacts us moving forward.
Well, currently we are waiting for legislation on our COVID-19 dollars from the state. Typically, they go into session, and we typically get a draft of a budget in a normal year. We would know something probably in July or about our state budget. Right now, that's kind of up in the air. As you know, we did not get a state budget last year, but we're hoping that this year we will get one. So once we get our state budget, we will adopt our budget. We should probably get our county appropriation in June. They'll vote on that in June. We'll hopefully get a state budget, not pending, barring any other delays, in July or August, and then we can adopt our budget at that time. But it all depends on when the state legislature convenes to work on the budget.
Okay, so we'll go back now to questions to our board member.
So, this is Board Member Jones. Can we talk about what in this budget, we have made some, reposition some things as far as in the school building, and that would be, can you kind of go over what that looks like, and maybe just highlight some of the things that we're changing over in the school, and it's, you know, as it relates to our org chart, just a little bit. You don't have to get into all that. And then I did have a question from our last time that we talked around specifically our EC department and our case managers. In this budget, has that made any reductions to case managers in the schools? Or what does that look like?
So at this time, we've added, this budget adds an additional $2 million in funding to the schoolhouse. So some adjustments you'll see in the schoolhouse is an addition of what we refer to as an MTSS intervention teacher. Those are full-time positions in schools that have gaps, and they're referred to as targeted school improvement schools, or the comprehensive school improvement schools, or CSI or TSI schools. These full-time positions are for the purpose of providing reading intervention or math intervention for students. Some additional additions, which are requests at this time, are certainly not approved, are campus associates. Campus associates are of the mindset of being more prevention-minded. Helping our children along the way before we criminalize behavior is really helping children understand expected behavior, conducting training, staying in tune with our surveillance and monitoring, so we hope to make our campuses more secure. The other area is the addition to middle and high school assistant principals for instruction. And also, rather than having a flat number of assistant principals in schools, actually having a graduated number of assistant principals that's based on enrollment. And so those assistant principals for instruction certainly are not the only instructional leaders in the building, but they are our contact for things like master scheduling and those kinds of things. Special education has been redesigned to support children, as I know, and I really can't speak to actually the EC case managers at this point. I don't have that information. We'll gladly send that to you. Relative to district office, this budget does afford an opportunity for some departments to reorganize and add staffing that best meets the needs of the department, and that is based on some gaps that we have come to terms with over this year in finance, gaps we've come to terms with in academic achievement, and in our ability to hire effectively. And so those are some of the areas that we will see improvements in this particular budget.
Hi, this is Barbara Burke. I wanted to ask a few questions also, but I do want to say, first of all, thank you so much to Chair Woodbury for those kind words of acknowledgement for my mother-in-law, Dr. Vivian Burke. Dr. Harrison, can you, I want to know more about this graduated number for APs. And I think that is based on enrollment, looking at the org chart that you gave me. Can you tell me pretty much how this graduated formula will impact a school like West Forsyth? How many APs do they have with that number?
So currently, West Forsyth has 3 assistant principals, as do all high schools. So what's happening is that schools with 500, well actually some schools with less than that, but a high school with 500 students would have the same number of assistant principals as a school with 2,300 students. And we know that although there may be some other challenges at smaller schools, there are also activities that one must keep in mind. So what we have done is we have added assistant principal support, not removed any from smaller schools, but certainly added assistant principal support to larger schools, and have them earning administrative and counselor support, by the way, based on enrollment, as they would earn their teacher support.
So West Forsyth now has 3 AP, and so that number would change to 4, is that correct?
Ms. Burke, I would probably be misspeaking if I said 4. I don't have that in front of me. I'll gladly get that to you, but certainly they would increase because they have 3, and I think they have close to 2,300 students, I think, and they would increase, yes.
Okay, and would Reagan also increase?
I would, yes, ma'am.
And East Forsyth?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I know that I've asked you this before in the small group meeting, and I just want to express my concern again for smaller schools, specifically Carver High School, because that's where I spent most of my life. They currently have 3 APs, as you said, all high schools do, and they would not lose an AP with this formula that that we're going to be voting on. They won't lose an AP, but what will happen? One of the APs will become the instructional AP. So in a sense, they will lose an AP. And I just want to tell you that they need the 3 APs that they have in the roles that they are currently in. I think you said it the other day, that institutional knowledge is valuable. So I'm going to drop a little bit right now. Before they were down, Carver had gone all the way down to 9% as far as their growth. And so what we decided to do, because the APs that were there, and I was one, we were spending too much time on discipline and not enough time on being instructional leaders. And we needed more time if we were going to bring those numbers up. So we decided to create a position called the Dean of Discipline. We did create that position, and then each AP had a specific content area where they were the instructional leader, instructional specialist, and we were able to focus more time on that content area. And as a result, the Dean of Discipline was able to help out, not take over discipline, but help out a lot. And as a result, our numbers went up. And since that process, since that structure has been put in place, Carver has made growth for the last 3 years. And that's very important, especially at Carver. Every year, and the data will show it, we have 85% of the students entering into Carver grade levels below. 85% coming in already deficient. So that instructional leadership and that instructional focus was really needed at Carver. And so for the last 3 years, because it's been in place, we were able to make significant growth. And I'm just concerned about these changes being made at Carver and what kind of impact it will have on our students. I'm echoing if I stop every now and then. And I just want us to reconsider this. I don't think that there's a one-size-fits-all formula. I think that when we think about equity, we're thinking about needs, not equal, we're thinking about needs. And I think that when you look at 85% of the students coming in grade levels below, you have to look at the needs in that building a lot different. And you need a different formula at a Carver than you would apply at a West Reagan or East Forsyth, just for example. So I think that with this formula, our smaller schools are going to suffer if we make these changes. And they're already suffering if you look at the data. So this would hurt a school like Carver or a smaller school rather than help. So I'm just asking my colleagues on the board to please give this strong consideration. Thank you.
Do we have any other comments or questions?
I have one question, and this is the 3% raise for the bus drivers and the 2% for others. Is that going to put us in the same range for our drivers and for our others? that Guilford County and maybe Mecklenburg have, or is that going to still put us on a lower platform?
So at this time, we would love to give, and actually, you will see a reference to giving a much higher, we would love to be able to do that. In fact, before the COVID, that was certainly our intent. But we know that that has had an impact on a lot of our work. The other thing that I think we have to acknowledge is that our salary schedule needs to be redesigned and submitted. And in each term, what we've realized is that a lot of our classified employees, we need to redesign their work a little bit and place them on an appropriate salary schedule, which we feel once we do that is going to cost us quite a bit as well. So in the fall, we will plan to submit a salary schedule that is fair and equitable to all, which will benefit our employees, and we will begin by classification, submitting opportunities for people to be reclassified, which will lead to higher levels of salaries. Before we can give a higher percentage of raise, we must first deal with our salary schedule.
That's helpful to me. I just want to make sure, that we are not losing our bus drivers. 3% seems really measly to me.
I hope it's not measly. It's $2.6 million. And so I hope that people appreciate the effort that the district is making to take care of them in the right way. And certainly that is a significant lift in times like this. And so we want to redesign our salary schedule so that it's fair and so that people are fairly placed on a salary schedule, which seems to be the biggest concern when we met with bus drivers, was being on the salary schedule. I also like to say that 90 of our part-time bus drivers we're recommending in this budget be placed on a full-time schedule, which will be a significant adjustment for them. So we hope that but they will be some of the first, as well as our school nutrition we look at relative to salary schedule.
Okay, that's most helpful. Thank you.
Dr. Harris?
Oh, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Yes, this is Elizabeth. Dr. Hairston, could you talk a little bit more about the safety, the increased safety person in the buildings?
Yes.
Because my understanding is that they are also going to be dealing with some of the things we traditionally have called discipline. Is that, so could you talk?
Well, not so much discipline. They will do a lot of our training. So first we want to see them as the front line for prevention. If there are certain discipline activities, the code of conduct, certain actions that we see consistent throughout our student population, we want them to be the first ones we can reach out to and go class to class with staff members and talk about prevention. We also want them to keep an eye on our campuses, locked doors, alarm systems, video surveillance monitoring. So we want them to be more prevention minded. And we also know that oftentimes while we value our police officers and they do just a wonderful job, they're somewhere between failure to follow the directions of a teacher and interaction with a police officer that we're able to intervene so that young activity is not criminalized so quickly.
Exactly.
Police officers, I think we forget that police officers, certified police officers, there to enforce the law. And so we want to be sure that we provide that additional support in schools and that if students are misbehaving, then we provide those assistant principals that support while they handle other students. They will monitor supervision. And so, yes, they will be a part of the discipline team. And I would like to address also the concern about discipline APs. One of the areas that I'm always aware of is that while we have students who are at risk and need support, absolutely, we cannot take away resources from students who are actually on the mark in doing the right work and doing the work at the level we need them to. We have to find ways to support children who need additional academic support and disciplinary support such that it doesn't take away from all children. And I mentioned earlier that we plan to use disproportionality funding, which is an additional pot of money that we plan to use to provide support for schools that are mentioned earlier. I want to call out any particular school, but there are some schools with disciplinary challenges. And when they have disciplinary challenges, there are things that we can do other than police them. We can offer behavioral consultants and teach them proper behavior. We can a lot of social emotional support, which you'll find in the new COVID dollars. So the wraparound services model that we'll use will provide schools with high needs with the right level of support. I'm all about following the law, but I'm also not about criminalizing behavior at such a young age. So we want to be sure we support children, we teach them proper behavior. If they're behind, we've added some intervention teachers to the budget to be sure that we catch them up. And so the wraparound services model will help us, and the campus security officers are part of that wraparound services model.
Thank you so much for that.
Oh, go ahead, Barbara.
No, you go ahead.
This is Deanna, and I had a good conversation with Dr. Hairston today about one of my concerns, and I'm just going to say it here and then listen to maybe Dr. Hairston can respond to it the way she did for me. And also another point I want to make, but according to statute 115C 427, the budget should contain a concise explanation of the educational goals fixed by the budget for the budget year, should set forth the reasons for stated changes from the previous years in program goals, programs and appropriation levels, and should explain any major changes in educational or fiscal policy. And by all of that, I think we need to clearly state what goals we want to achieve with references to last year, and specifically what we want to attain in terms of metrics, not just general. And Dr. Hairston had a response for me, but before I ask you if you could say that again, I want to make sure, and my understanding that if I vote for this to go to the county commissioners to stay on schedule, I'm not voting to approve this as a final budget without more discussion and clarity. So I'm not really voting to approve this as a final budget. Is that correct?
I'll ask Deion Jenkins, our general counsel, to clarify that for you.
Yes, Ms. Kaplan, this is a proposed budget. There's still, it still has to go to the county and anticipate some feedback and possibly some adjustments when after the county hearing takes place. And so then we'll come back to the board and you'd have an additional opportunity to discuss changes to the budget before voting on the final budget. This also depends on what we get from the state. And so we can't really finalize things until we know what the state's going to do.
Will we still have an opportunity to weigh in and make some changes as well as a board?
Well, I think that it really depends on what you want to make changes to. You know, there will be an opportunity to revisit this once Dr. Hairston and Ms. Gillis present it to the commissioners. They'll bring it back to you for additional conversation. But I guess it just depends on what recommendations you want to make to be changed.
Can we make those recommendations at a later date once we have more time to really delve into it more?
You can make a recommendations for anything to change until you approve the final budget.
Okay, thank you.
But like typically, wouldn't we, once it comes back from the commissioners, we will have to look at it again because we will have to make some revisions based on what they bring back to us. Is that correct?
Yes.
Unless you know we were lucky enough to have everything go as planned, and then we still, since it's not a final budget, we would still have that time to to make adjustments where we saw fit, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay, so we do, to Deanna's point, we still have lots of opportunities to relook at things, which I'm sure there will be a need to do that, I would imagine.
This is Board Member Crowley. I just want to voice a concern about moving capital outlay money to the operating budget. I know a few years ago it was determined that we needed about $8 million per year in order to catch up on all the maintenance issues, capital issues that we had in our district. So it concerns me moving any money from that pot that's, used to keep our schools well functioning and hopefully more economical if things are running efficiently. So that's one concern. And then my other concern is the new positions that have been outlined more for central office or for the administrative building, and just wanting to make sure that our budget is aligning with the goals that we set forth back in the fall, and that was really focused on making an impact in the classroom and fortifying our teachers with what they need so that we can get great student achievement.
So the capital outlay component that was moved is actually technology, not the capital outlay that you're referencing relative to facilities. Is technology. And because of the CARE dollars, we will exceed that amount. So those dollars were shifted to the CARE budget once that's further defined to support e-learning, because we will need far more than the $2 million. And so that's how that was reduced and shifted. And relative to the central office positions, we value that comment. We appreciate that, and certainly we'll keep that as a note.
Okay, thank you.
This is Board Member Parker. So once we have a budget amounts and things from the county and from the state, and we are sure about these changes that we are going to make at the school level. So at that point, will we be able to set goals that we will look at to see the effectiveness? Because I know we've changed some things, and will we at that point, to kind of piggyback on what Ms. Kaplan was saying, will we set definable goals at that point to see which whether this made a difference, or whether we were having whether just to see which positions, because I know that you have some good ideas, and I just want to make sure they're measurable and that we are going to measure those, and so we can be accountable for these dollars that we've changed around.
Well, I don't know that we changed around dollars. There are certain categories that we must place our dollars in, and that's aligned with the strategic plan. So the strategic planning process began in November, and you all did approve the goals in February. But from there, the plan had been for the senior team and principals to look at the goals and the action steps and have metrics to present to you all. That was interrupted by the closure. So we are still on track to have those, and that's called a scorecard, those measures that measure your implementation of the strategic plan. So once we have those balanced scorecard metrics, that will be posted in eBoard. And of course, between now and July 1st, the strategic plan you approved doesn't take effect until July 1st. And so because there were no metrics district-wide that you could call a scorecard, there were goals that we wanted to achieve, but not really a scorecard. When the budget process aligned, the divisions did not have those metrics to submit a budget. So moving forward, after July 1, they will have the metrics to support their budgetary items. When they come in the fall in October for next year, they will submit their budget based on moving the metrics across the district that are aligned with the strategic plan. So moving forward, we hope that we'll have a process that I think Ms. Gillis and I are accustomed to working with, which is you allot your dollars based on moving your scorecards, and the board's priorities are based on the strategic plan with the aligned scorecards. So we were at a disadvantage this year because Ms. Gillis did not start with us until December. We did not have a full-time CFO until December. She began her work in January. And so that was after the budget process started. Our strategic plan work did not conclude with goals until February. We started that after I arrived in November. You all approved the goals. So moving forward, I think what you're asking for is what we're accustomed to working with. And we look forward to having that for you in the coming fiscal year. At this time, you'll find in your revised book that everyone was received by Tuesday, will be posted online. You will see that the budget goals are aligned in each category. And so that will be the alignment to the extent to the alignment this year. Next year, you will have metrics that are aligned to the strategic plan. And we know the North Carolina School Boards Association, we appreciate their support in getting us to this point. And we'll have a nice scorecard listed with the measures that we'd like to do.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question. I just want to make sure. Sometimes whenever we use in dollars, we don't really change positions, but we change the way we use those dollars in positions that people are skeptical. So I just wanted to make sure we're going to have some measures in line that we can show where those dollars are being used and that they're effective.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I have one more question. This is Lyda. What we're doing right now, I assume, is only being discussed by our board members and also Dudley Watts, but there is no one else that is aware of any of our. Is that correct? Or if they are, could you tell me, how we go about doing this? I just wanted to make sure that our boards are the ones that are aware of what we're doing right now.
So this is being televised, so everyone is aware of this particular budget. And we did meet with our county manager to be sure that our numbers, you'll see some adjustments because our county manager, we have a funding formula in our county. Not all counties have a funding formula, but we did want to make our budget, we did want to adhere to the funding formula, and we feel proud that we were able to work with our county manager successfully to have him take a look at our numbers, the same presentation you have. There are more detailed budget booklet will be adjusted before Tuesday based on any votes this evening or comments will be and it will be posted. So that book will be posted prior to going to the commission. The commission will receive that book as well. The only ones with the budget per se should be at this time prior to the day should be the board members and of course senior team. So that's where we are right now. So that's how we'll proceed. We'll post everything by Tuesday. This will be posted. This is actually posted for public consumption today.
Thank you. I just wanted to know, where we stood in case we got questions, from other people.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
This is Elizabeth, and First, I do want for the public to know that the board has had multiple opportunities to speak with both you and Andrea Gillis, and I appreciate how open and available you've been, and I just feel like it's really important to say how much I appreciate, and I hope the whole board appreciates, your accessibility and willingness to answer questions all along. My concern, and so thank you very much, because it's been a really open, inclusive process. My question is, how adaptable are we going to be able to be if the opening of school and the next school year has some of the kinds of disruptions that we've had this year? Because my understanding is the year to come is likely to have some disruptions. So I'm first very glad we have a full-time finance person here who can help with that, and I'm really glad to have you here to help with that, Dr. Hairston. So could you just speak to that for a moment?
Clarify for me a little bit more. Do you mean financial disruptions?
So the disruptions could be, for example, if we end up having to do something like A Day, B Day, or close school for 3 weeks in November, or any such. My concern is just how flexible and/or fluid do we need to be?
So I think we need to be very flexible, but I think that we have a significant part of unbudgeted funding that we don't have clear direction on at this time, and that was referenced. The CARE dollars, the COVID dollars from the state, and there are multiple school opening task force groups throughout the state. Our board member Jones is on one, with Mark Johnson with Department of Instruction. PTEC has a group, our triad superintendents. There's also 2 other groups working on school opening. So from all indications, we need to be very, very flexible, but we'd like to make sure that the CARE dollars and the COVID dollars remain in support of that. That's why I mentioned the e-learning, exactly. The technology moving over to those dollars. It's a significant amount of dollars in my regard. It may not be so significant if we have to move into a hybrid model. But we plan to share something with the Board of Education, give something to you by June that will tell you a little bit more based on the governor's phase-in approach. And all things athletic, all things instruction have to be considered. So we will have to be very flexible and very mindful that school may look quite different in the fall.
Thank you so much.
This is Barbara, and I'm circling back around. I wanted to ask about the campus security, and I want to know what the specific requirements they would have to have in order to work in our buildings.
Should this be approved, what we would do is submit to you job descriptions for any additional positions. And so at this time, we're looking at anywhere from an associate's degree to a bachelor's degree for these positions, and hopefully some law enforcement training in that area. We want the best folks, but also some individuals who are able to relate to students and train and provide professional learning. So at this time, we do have a tentative job description, and that would call for someone to have somewhere between an associate's to a bachelor's degree.
Well, I wanted to circle back around and kind of bring up deans, a dean of discipline or a dean versus campus security. And the reason why is because deans have to be certified. Most of them are going to possess a teacher's license. Some possess administrative license, and they are already skilled and knowledgeable about dealing with students. And they offer, in the dean's role, they offer the same services that we're hoping campus security will offer, like being that front line for prevention. They provide the restorative practices, the social emotional support, small group programs with incentives aligned to the outcomes that they're discussing and counseling the students with. And so I think we would do better, especially, trying to help our students to grow and think about prevention before getting themselves into a situation that will not benefit them. I think that thinking about the dean being certified and getting them in the schools versus campus security will be more beneficial. I also want to say about these deans, because I don't want anybody to think a dean of discipline is the answer to discipline. You will still have to have a certified assistant principal in order to help and assist that dean, because the dean will be limited as far as what they can do when it comes to discipline issues. So that's just my suggestion. A dean of discipline over campus security, because they are specifically trained and they have degrees and certification in children, students, their behavior, and how to best meet their needs.
Hey, this is Board Member Jones. I just, I wanted to say, first of all, I want to give a big thank you to Andrea. I think she has done a great job in a short amount of time with this budget, and to Dr. Hairston and all those who put it together. In my time on the board, this is by far the best document that's been put in front of me at this time, and especially coming in and trying to fix some issues that we had, trying to keep the train on the track, and then trying to plan for next year. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the intention, being able to code some of the position allotments versus dollar allotments, and then the different category allotments. I think that as a board member is very helpful to me. I appreciated this budget, and also how that kind of reflects in an organizational chart, so that we could look at both of those types of things. There's a lot here. I think probably other board members like myself are hearing some feedback from people in the district as things might be looking a little different. I think, and sometimes change is just hard because it's unknown, but with a new CFO, a new superintendent, a lot of new key positions in the district, we kind of know that vision is going to be a little different. And so I think I like the process. I say all that to say, do I agree with 100% probably of what's in this budget? Right now, no. But I agree with most of it. And I think a lot of the additions that it looks like we will have at central office and administration, especially in the Department of Instruction, is, in my opinion, very warranted and needs to happen. And then also in finance, I think we need to focus on that as well. The one thing that I have brought up in our small groups as a concern is that if we can project into 21-22 with things right now that we know we're going to need, maybe we don't have funding for, if we, much like we did in the last couple of years with maybe reading interventionists and some of those other positions, if we can go ahead and kind of identify to people that this may be an area that we are phasing out or going to be reducing in the future or changing, I would like to see some of those kinds of things put in. And maybe it's a little early on, and I know, again, everyone is still kind of new and trying to figure out how this will completely flow, but I would appreciate the thought of doing that as we kind of move a bit longer into the process. But I do want to thank both of you. I know you put a tremendous amount of time in this.
And thank you, Board Member Jones. You are spot on there. We certainly would like to see a budget that's 2 years out and get some idea. I promise you that CFO Gillis and I will begin working on this next year's budget in August and have an even much better project. But the goal again is to have a 2-year projection. So your request is certainly something that's needed, and we will be working on that.
This is Board Member Parker. I'd just like to echo that as well, that this is a great budget, very user friendly, and I think that the public will understand it better as well. So I really, really do appreciate all you've done to make this budget what it is, so I'm just really this is a budget that we as a board can take and adjust as needed and know what we're doing. And I just really appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Ms. Parker.
I agree. This is Slider 100%. I got the budget in my hand right now, and it's the best. I've been on this board for 2 terms. This is unbelievable. I learned so much that honestly, I hate to say I didn't know about, and I want to say thanks to all of y'all. Job well done.
Thank you, Ms. Calvert-Hayes. So I really appreciate each and every comment that you've made, and our goal here is to be sure that we reflect the work that's needed, knowing that if we have a great baseline, next year will be even better. We'll have better adjustments, better timeline, more involvement from our principals, which is something that I really want to see happen over the next year or two, is more involvement from our customers, the schoolhouse. So at this time, I would say that this concludes our presentation, certainly open to other comments. And certainly as the public provides feedback, we certainly will reflect on those comments as they come into you all, the board members, or to myself or the CFO, all of that. So as you get feedback, please be sure that you are sharing. I want everybody to feel comfortable sharing as we go through this process. So at this point, to our General Counsel, Ms. Jenkins, would you take us to the next level in what we need to do?
Yes, ma'am. So if there are no further questions, then at this point, pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 115C-429, the next step in the process is for the board to approve the proposed budget and authorize the superintendent to submit the proposed budget to the county commissioners. The county commissioners have a timeline by which they are to review, provide feedback. As Dr. Harrison stated, I believe the scheduled submission date is May the 14th. And then they will take action or provide some feedback, and then it will come back to the board for further review, comment, and approval. So that's what you're being asked to do tonight in the action items, is to approve this proposed budget and authorize the superintendent to submit it to the county commissioners.
So I'll do a roll call vote at this time, if that is permissible. Chair Woodbury.
I need to get a motion.
Yes, Chair Woodbury, this is Board Member Jones. I make a motion to approve the budget and take it to the county commissioners.
This is Elizabeth, and I second that motion.
Are there any further questions or discussion? you can go ahead and take the roll, Dr. Harrison.
Thank you, Chair Woodbury. Chair Woodbury,
Yes?
Lyda Calvert-Hayes,
Yes.
Andrea Bramer,
Aye.
Barbara Burke,
No.
Leah Crowley,
Yes.
Dana Jones,
Yes.
Deanna Kaplan,
Yes.
Elizabeth Motzinger,
Yes.
and Marilyn Parker.
Yes.
All right, the ayes have it. Chair Woodbury.
Thank you. So again, I would like to thank and let me turn my video back on. I would like to thank the community for spending this time with us to move through this process of getting our budget approved ultimately. And again, just know that we are in the first phases of this to hear information from the superintendent and our chief academic, not chief academic, but our chief financial officer, and definitely working closely with our county commissioners so that we can make sure that we provide the best opportunities for all of our students and our staff, because I believe that Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools is and will continue to be the best school district in North Carolina. And, you know, I think by way of what we are by law authorized to do as the board to make sure that we operate on a sound budget, I know that we are going in the right direction. So with that being said, I would like to get a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Board Member
So
Bramer.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, let it know by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Chair Woodbury.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Have a great night.
Good evening. Have a good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you for joining us on Your School Channel, Cable 2.